10 out.
Recording in progress.
Good evening, and I'd like to call the November 26th work session to order. Everyone please rise for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everyone for coming tonight. So I only have one thing to discuss in the supervisor's report. Yesterday we had the food pantry, which is going on every month on the last Monday of the month. Yesterday we had, considering that the holidays are coming up, we had a record turnout, over 80 families show up. And I believe some were using the bus. But again, we're going to keep the program going as long as possible, as long as we still have sponsors. And the bus service, there is bus service that's being provided for free by Rolling V, and as long as folks are utilizing the service, they will continue to provide the service. So I encourage those that want to come to the food pantry to utilize the free bus service. Sure.
Also, the local food pantries around Hurleyville, they're looking for hats, new gloves, because they don't have. So if anyone picks up an extra pair of gloves or hats, please drop them off to them. So, thank you.
Right. Paul, do we have any correspondence tonight? No correspondence, and I'm going to go ahead and open it up to public comment.
Hold 1 second. So we have a thank you note. Dear Arnold Zaleski, Fallsburg Town Board and Sullivan County Youth Program, thank you so much for the day at Cartwright. It is so nice of all of you to treat us to such a great day, and it is signed by Catherine A., Diana A., Daisy D., Allison L., Nazareth P., Hazel M., Dana M., Nicole J., Martina C., Naomi C., Jasmine P., Paola M.D., Maylene M., Kayla O., Marilyn S., and Elijah C. Thank you, Herb. Thank you for this great opportunity, Cassie. Sorry, I didn't relate.
Thank you. I heard that was a great trip. Thank you, Arnold.
Thank you.
All right, now we can open up to public comment. Do we have any folks signed up to speak tonight?
James Ligari.
Good evening. First, I'd like to thank the board and Arnold for what they did for the veterans a few days ago. The ceremony out there was nice, even as cold and windy as it was, and the hospitality was absolutely fantastic. I spoke to this board on September 10th and on September 17th. At those meetings, I gave the board copies of the Delaware River Basin documents dated September 9th, 2014 and October 20th, 2021. In the 2021 document, on page 9, paragraph 2, it states the town is required by law to do a study to determine the capacity of the town's aquifer within 3 years. That 3-year requirement expires February of 2025. My question is to Ken. From the October 20th, 2021 document, the town is required by law to do this study. And if the town is not going to do this study, please explain why. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Ann Wagner, please.
Good evening. Short and simple. Due to current and expected future constraints on both water and sewer systems, which were discussed during a joint town board, planning board, and zoning board of appeals meeting on May 9, 2022, a review by the town engineer, Ken Ellsworth, guided by his expertise and knowledge about the town's water and sewer systems, will make the final decision on all water and sewer connections and extensions, which will be based on present existing facts and circumstances. Number one, at the present date, which is 2.5 years later, what is the current water capacity for the town of Fallsburg? 2, how can an educated decision be made about future developments being connected to the town's water and sewer without a proper current study of the water capacity and the aquifer? And the last one is, what financial burden will be put on the taxpayers of this town to replace and repair the sewer and water? Thank you.
Nancy McLean, please.
Good evening, board members, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Nancy Tavermina McLean, and I have been serving my community as a member of the Woodburn Fire Department and First Aid Squad for over 42 years. For the last 2 years, I have volunteered my EMT services for the safety of the Comets Youth Football games played at Morningside Park. Due to recent deaths of young athletes throughout New York State after sports events and during events, New York State and the Public Health Chapter 4S Article 30 and DOH Statement 0903. At this time, I would like to request a meeting with the board to discuss this further so I can continue to provide my volunteer services to the Comets Youth Football team. Thank you.
And I do want to say something. I want to thank you on behalf of the board and the parents of those kids that you're always at the park taking care of them, and I thank you.
Mary Adams, please.
Hi, good evening. Wonderful board, thank you for all that you do. I discovered how much you all have to do every day. Thank you. It's not uncomplicated running a little town, or a relatively big town, actually. Okay, I have a quick question for Ken Ellsworth related to the water. I've mentioned it before, but it's really a concern, and I wonder if he could answer this. I believe the water estimates for usage for the proposed developments in Loch Sheldrake alone, because they're the ones I've been focusing on, using the formula that they estimate water usage 120 gallons per bedroom. Now, most of the units in Loch Sheldrake developments are either 6 or 7 bedrooms. I think they're mostly 6, except for Luxor Junior. So, so 1 person per bedroom. Now, we know we have a unique population in the summer, but summertime, everyone brings friends, family, and so on. So I think for us to just estimate 1 person per bedroom is impractical. So the estimates for usage and or the million gallon tank that we have and its usage, it's underestimated. So already we have pressure against our structures and our infrastructure and our pipes. But I believe when it could be up to, it's definitely 3,700 more people in Loch Sheldrake, but it could be up to 7,000 if you actually had 2 people per bedroom. The amount of pressure on the infrastructure, we've seen pipes breaking this summer. We saw La Vista run out of water. So it isn't because we don't have water, but it is because the pipes can't handle the pressure. And when everybody arrives at sundown on Fridays, they all turn their water on at the same time, and then they turn it off roughly at the same time, all at once, which makes the pipes have what I guess is called a hammer, and it can actually break the pipes. So this unique situation, I feel, really has to be considered. We are unique, and this formula is not realistic. So I just want to make sure, and I would be interested to know from Ken's point of view, how we take that into consideration, these unusual circumstances and the demand on our systems. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Next up, does anybody else want to speak tonight? Okay, come on up, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ari Grunhardt. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak. I do a lot of community service as a volunteer for Atsola. I would like to thank the board for doing so much for this town. And I would like to add to the people who already spoken about the situation with water and sewer. The town is in a situation with water and sewer, as everyone knows. And the upgrades and the amount that costs to upgrade should not be put on the taxpayers. And every town believes in order to upgrade, then that town needs to raise money, and one of the best ways to raise money is by bringing in more development, more economic development. More people come in, the more money there is to build. The town can have a rich town with a rich infrastructure, with a lot of water and a lot of sewer. Now, this the last person that stood up and just spoke. It seems like she does not have a lot of knowledge of engineering. I'm not an engineer either, but I've had experience with operating my own water supply systems. 120 gallons per bedroom means 2 people. The DOH calculates about 60 gallons per person per day. So 120 means automatically 2 people. So there you go, the count is not undercalculated, makes a lot of sense. And now with the pressure, I don't think when you do all the people go on a huge conference call, they all shut it off at the same minute and put on the same minute, that can do a trigger on the pipe and have an impact on the pipe, just people opening and closing faucets within a few minutes apart. Doesn't do anything. Pipes are old, they need to be replaced, but coming up with own now engineering that doesn't make sense is just, thank you.
One last call for in-person. Okay, do we have anybody online? Nope, nobody online.
All right, so with that, I'm gonna go ahead and close the public portion and move on to our department head updates. First up is our assessor, Winnie.
Okay. Hi, everybody. How are we today? All right. Sure? You want your own?
Yeah, all right.
Sure. You can have your own.
All right.
Oh, good.
Yeah, more for everybody else.
Thank you for the Here.
Jeremy's coming.
Okay, so we're at the part of our year where we've finished the final roll. We've gotten our one roll out for the abstracts to go over to the county. So that's where all our levies go on. There'll be one more roll that we'll do in December, and that was just to update new owners and address changes. So, being the fact that we have the new data collector, and I can't even really say he's new since he did come over from the building department, his ability to go out, get the data, create Excels, he was doing it already. So he's right in the flow. The only thing that's a little different from him, which he'll get used to, is instead of only going to certain developments, which is what he did when he was at the building department, he's going to every single development, every single unit, so it's just a little different for him, but he's doing pretty well with it. So the first sheet is the breakdown, and again, I say it all the time, I will continue, it is very fluid numbers. So if you look at the last one that we gave you, those open permanent, that number, it may look less, but it only means because a whole bunch closed out and a whole bunch new came in. So it's a number that is constantly moving and changing. Our D count is quite high. We do have a lot of Ds coming in right now, so, and that's pretty much what we have for the end of the year. A lot of things come through, so you'll see that. Then again, the bottom box, you're gonna see all these numbers have gone up, every single one of them. Village Woodbridge as well. The weather's still good, so people are gonna try to get some stuff in where they can, get some building in. Current developments, I would say Wesley and Colette have gone out a couple of times. They haven't really done percentage of completion. It's more about looking at the developments and seeing what's happening. So you're not gonna see too much movement on the percentage of completion. Next week they're going out, and we're gonna probably start moving now because a lot of developments have actually done some work in the past month. Again, the weather's good, so whatever they can get in, they're gonna try to get in. So all that'll be done. The only other thing that's going on right now is the exemptions. New York State is sending out a lot of letters to people who they either didn't get enough information from. So again, the same public service announcement, anybody who gets a letter from New York State, if you're not sure, call me, come in. Any of us can take care of you, we'll help you. If it's information that we have to get to the state, we can fax it. New York State finally gave us permission to do that. For a while, they were like, no, don't do anything, but now
So if anything has to be faxed to the state, we can do that for anybody who needs that. And so school bills are done, we're still getting a lot of calls. School bill, the warrants are done, all 4 school districts, we're done. So if anyone didn't pay their bill, it's getting levied into your January bill. So you'll see that in January. That's about it. Questions?
Good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Winnie.
You're
Next, DPW, Ken Ellsworth, is Ken here?
He's online.
Welcome, Ken.
I'm sorry, Mike, was that DPW?
It says DPW, Ken Ellsworth.
Oh, I'm sorry, so let's start with sewer with Randy Jones, leading that. They've been working on the Lake Street grinder station. They're still waiting for parts on that. So they're spending a little bit of time making sure those pumps don't clog up in the process of just general running without that grinder. They're doing a lot of maintenance. They have some time now to dedicate to general maintenance, and they're also painting some of the stations, some of the pump stations. I can go into water next. Information from Bobby and Rob Ward. They're also doing general maintenance on the wells. They put out their hydrant stakes for visibility for the winter, for the snow. There's a lot of guys in both departments that are on vacation now, and they had one break, which was at Community Park service line that they happened on last Friday at noon, and they ended up finishing about 10 o'clock at night, but it's fixed. So they're keeping an eye on that. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Ken, so there was a question from the public regarding an aquifer study. I feel like we discussed this briefly regarding well number 8, something like that.
Yeah. So we have an approval for our 10-year docket from the DRVC, but with that approval came a series of questions, one of them being the aquifer study, and Barton Judas is in the process of reviewing that with the geologist from DRVC. So we're looking to get a report back on that probably within the next 2 or 3 weeks.
And that should address DRVC's letter to the town, correct?
Correct. Yep. There's other comments in that letter. There are conditions of the approval. It's typical that you get conditions, and they've asked a few other questions. So Barton Judas did the work on the well number 8, and they also renewed our 10-year docket. So it made sense to go back to them to respond to the questions.
Okay, thank you, Ken. All right, next up is our highway superintendent, Anthony.
So we've, obviously we had a storm the other night, we came in, everybody came in, made it through, a couple breakdowns, hoses, nothing major, thank God. In the meantime, we get the rest of the trucks ready for, maybe the storm coming up this weekend. We've done some ditching, we got the sub base and the crusher on the pickleball court over there at Morningside, so in the spring all that has to do is be fine graded and paved, and a little topsoil work, and Arnold should have a nice pickleball court over there. We screened all that, made a bunch of topsoil over at Crossing Terry Braille, a stockpile of dirt that's there from ditching and what just years of dirt there. We made a nice beautiful file there they have. We've sucked up some leaves before the snow last week, and guys have been working real hard. They've been doing a real good job trying to keep the trucks going. It's real proud of them. So it's been going pretty good, and that's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to agenda items. We have 3 on the agenda tonight. We're gonna be adding a 4th one, which I will explain in detail when we get to it. So first one has to do with approving our town board minutes. Motion to approve town board minutes dated 11/19/24.
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 2, motion to approve warrant number 11B24 dated 11/20/24 in the amount of $495,938.71.
Motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second? I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. Number 3, so this has to do with our proposed towing ordinance. Richard, would you be able to just give us a quick rundown on this?
I'm recused on the details of the tow ordinance itself, but this is a procedural motion, which requires that the tow ordinance be drafted, that it be offered, and that there be a public hearing scheduled.
So this sets the public hearing to...
Right, it doesn't pass the law, it just sets the public hearing for 12/17.
So, all right, so, number 3, resolution to amend the Town of Fallsburg Road Service and Towing Ordinance, offer local law number 5/2024 to provide for safe, orderly, and efficient road service and town services for disabled vehicles in the Town of Fallsburg, and scheduling a public hearing for 12/17/24 at 6 p.m.
So again, real quick, this is only to schedule a hearing, it's not to, so I'll make a motion to schedule a public hearing. Second.
Have a second, all, we have 2 recusals tonight, correct?
Yes.
You just put them on record, and then I'm recused from the merits of this, and Dylan Harris will be on tap for the public hearing, and then deliberate.
Understood. So I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Anyone who is, and I have 2 recusals, Councilwoman Behan and Councilman Weiner. So the motion passes. So next up, this was a last minute addition. So this has to do with a Restore New York Communities initiative. It's up to $1 million grant to help remediate blighted properties. We're going through the process of seeking a grant to, I guess, remediate and remove the Refuah Health Center building. And it requires a number of steps, including one of which is to hold a public hearing for public comment on the proposed matter. Richard, do you want to add anything to this?
Give me just a moment. All right, so the community development block grants are available to remediate blight. And in order to do that, you have to go through a procedure where you have a public hearing to obtain citizen views and comments relative to the submission of an application to the Empire State Development Corporation for the financial assistance under the Restore New York Communities Initiative. So that the resolution that I did draft basically resolves that the town supports and sponsors the application, ratifies and reaffirms the authority to seek community development block grant, vacant property clearance program application, which requires the scheduling of the public hearing, and there's a publication one time of the public hearing notice, and then there's a property assessment list which has to be posted for 3 consecutive days, and then we would schedule the public hearing, and then we have the details of the publication are, tracked with the regulations, basically elaborating what I just said, and then describing, the grant that's available, and it's to take down a building at 36 Laurel Avenue.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve resolution 79 of 2024? Resolution of the Town of Fallsburg ratifying and reaffirming authority to seek community development block grant vacant property clearance program application, and scheduling a public hearing to obtain citizens' views and comments and publish and post property assessment list.
Motion.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. All right, so now we're gonna move on to our discussion items for the evening. First up, we have the South Fallsburg wastewater treatment plant upgrades presented by Delaware Engineering.
Thank you. How's everybody doing tonight? So I'm here representing Delaware Engineering. I do my name is Helen Budroff. I'm here with my colleagues, Mary Beth Bianconi and Jusula. So the reason why I'm here, a lot of people recognize me as the person at the planning board meetings. I serve as the town's consulting planner. But the reason why I'm here today is I also manage grants and financing for Delaware Engineering for large infrastructure projects. So you may recall that I was before you, I think it was back in May, to give a little bit of an update on where we were with the grants and financing, specifically for the South Fallsburg wastewater treatment plant. You'll recall that Delaware Engineering, we specialize in wastewater infrastructure, so even though Keystone is the town engineer, we were brought in specifically to address the South Fallsburg wastewater treatment plant because it's a large plant, it's fairly complicated. So our work is limited to that, and also we're working on an evaluation of the Mountaindale plant as well. Oh, come join me.
Oh,
thank
not
you.
here by yourself.
All right, over here.
You're not hiding, you're in perfect view.
You can run it, you can't hide. So again, the reason why I'm here today is back in May, I gave you a little bit of a preview. I sort of warned you that I would be back in the fall because we have a schedule of compliance that we're trying to meet that is mandated by the EPA. So as you know, the South Fallsburg wastewater treatment plant not only has capacity issues, it's operating at or near its permitted capacity in the summer, but it also is not meeting its permitted effluent limits. So there's a consent order by the EPA that basically says, regardless of how much flow you're permitted to go through the plant, you have issues that you need to address in order to maintain EPA compliance. The town, with Delaware's direction, provides quarterly updates to the EPA, and part of that includes a compliance schedule that basically says we're making progress, towards these goals, and here's the updated schedule. And every time we submit an updated schedule, it's kind of like another 6 months out, another 6 months out, another 6 months out. And we can only do that for so long. So what I'm here tonight is to explain, and you received a memo that I wrote last month, and hopefully you all got a copy of it, to explain why now the timing is critical to move forward with a bond resolution process. So a municipal bond resolution basically just authorizes the town to borrow up to a certain amount of money for an infrastructure project such as this. And there's two main reasons why the timing now is critical. Is number one, we have been working on applying for grants to hopefully soften the blow in terms of the impacts on ratepayers. Up until now, we have submitted information to what's called the Environmental Facilities Corporation, or EFC. That's the state agency that is the main source of financing and grants for these types of programs. For the past 2 years, we have listed your project in their annual document, and every year they rank and rate the projects. And if you are above a certain point level, you qualify for up to $25 million in grants. If you're below that point level, you get $25 million in 0% financing as kind of a consolation prize, right? So I don't know about you, but I'd much rather have $25 million than just a promise of $25 million with no interest. So for the past 2 years, the cutoff for that grant has been around 50 points. 2023, you scored 42 points. This year, you scored 47 points. So you're like right on the cusp of being able to qualify for that $25 million grant. This comes from the bipartisan infrastructure legislation, also known as bill. That's that huge infrastructure bill that was passed in 2021 in the wake of COVID to try to jumpstart the economy. That funding was only authorized for 5 years. So it started in 2021, which means next year, 2025, is the last year that bill funding will be available in the form of grants. The town has already qualified for the $25 million in hardship financing, but obviously $25 million in grant funding would be a huge difference. One thing that will gain you some extra points is actually submitting a financing application to EFC. In order to do that, part of that application process is passing a bond resolution. So that's one of the reasons why I would like to move forward with this now. Usually a bond resolution, the whole process takes about 3 or 4 months at a minimum. And the next round of updates that we need to send to EFC are due in May. So just by submitting an SRF application, you get, I think it's 2 or 3 additional points. So they're also updating their scoring criteria. They put a draft out that may vote in your favor. So again, next year's what's called intended use plan or IUP is basically the last bite of the apple that Fallsburg will have to get that big grant money. The second reason is there's another pot of money that is available through the Environmental Facilities Corporation called WIA. It stands for Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. That is another $25 million that you could apply for. We haven't applied for it yet because one of the prerequisites is they want to make sure that you are project ready and you have to include a copy of your bond resolution with the grant application. So in other words, you can't apply for WIA until you've gone through that bond resolution process.
No issues applying for both.
No, not at all. We have one project in the village of Sherburne, which is a small rural community, that they had I think it was a $30 million wastewater treatment plant project. They got billed, they got WIA, they also got another grant called WPYP, and with all of that combined, about 90% of the cost of the project is funded through grants. You're not in that same situation because it's a much larger project and you've got, sort of caps. I know, right? But best case scenario with those 3 sources of funding, you'd be able to get somewhere around $55–60 million in grants, against a $90 million estimated cost. So we're doing our best to secure the grants and financing, but we need your help to kind of take the next step. I know it's a huge pill to swallow. I kind of think of it like, taking out a home equity loan against your house because you want to remodel, right? So you take out, a home equity line. It doesn't mean that you're going to spend all that money. It just means that you are authorized to borrow up to a certain amount. So the first step in the process is basically authorizing, the town attorney to engage with bond counsel, a specialized attorney that will guide you through the process. We need to prepare what's called a map plan and report. I'm sure you've seen those before with the district extension process. So if we could kick off that process in December, we'll be able to move forward with the idea of having the required public hearing in February. Then there's a 30-day permissive referendum period. There's noticing requirements, so that's why it sort of is a little bit of a prolonged process. But the whole goal is to have that bond resolution passed and in hand by the time the next round of funding comes up in May. So that's basically what I'm here for. So any questions on that?
So really the only thing that's holding up the next step of the upgrade would be this bond resolution? Is that what we're up to?
Yes, yeah, we're kind of at a standstill point, at least in terms of the grants and financing. There's a lot of other moving parts, from a regulatory and technical standpoint, but we're kind of at a fork in the road now as far as maximizing the amount of grants and financing that we can get for the project.
Can you see any advantage to holding out longer? Is there some kind of grant that we can apply for that would make sense for us to push this off, or?
I would say disadvantage, actually.
I would say, yeah, 'cause-
So bipartisan infrastructure law was passed by the last Congress, which was a Democratic Congress. We do not have a Democratic Congress starting on January 1. This will expire. They will not reauthorize. Guaranteed. It will not.
And
At all.
you feel confident we have a good chance of getting a piece of this funding?
As Helen, it's competitive, as Helen said, when she talked about scoring,
Mm-hmm.
it is literally, there is a list of criteria. Do you meet, do you not meet? You get points. You are competing against everybody else who wants this money
In the entire
across the whole state.
Mhm.
So the fact that you've been on the bubble for all this time, how they decide where the number is based on the competition and how much money they have. So every year, the competition gets stiffer, more people want the money, you guys are on the bubble. Waiting, there's a couple of negatives to waiting. One is, I am fairly confident that the new Congress will not reauthorize this bill. It got through because of COVID and it got through because of a democratically controlled everything, right? We do not have that now, and that's not a political statement, that's a fact, right? So,
you have that going for you. The other thing that you have, and Brock can speak to this, but as time has gone by, folks may remember, when we started working on this project a number of years ago, it was a less expensive project. That was not because we weren't building concrete and doing all these things, that's because of inflation. And what is happening is you have had very significant inflation in the cost of construction materials and labor. And we don't see that really, it has leveled out, but you're not gonna go back to 2019 prices. So the more time that goes by, because even if you do everything Helen just said, right, Helen? If they do everything, you won't know what kind of money you had until next year, December. So that's a year from today. And then while we have 90% plans, we're about to get some permits, there's some more regulatory things we have to do. You're looking at bidding this job in 2027 and constructing over the course of the next couple of years. Is that right, Brock?
I'm hoping to be 26.
26, we're hoping to do it.
26, early 26,
Early
we
26.
would go, even late 25 if we could, but that would be, it would take all the stars to align to get to 26.
In a perfect world.
We-
So time is not your friend. Costs go up, you get the same pipe, the same concrete, the same everything, it's just you're paying more for
We
it.
generally, I generally added 5% per year, and that's been,
So if we were at 90,
that's in 2020, that.
So you're telling me we're
estimate's
close to
2025. That's a
one-
2025 estimate, yes.
Oh.
At 90.
okay,
So if we go 26, I would add 5%.
So correct me if I'm wrong, the preliminary engineering report that came out in 2019 had an estimate of about $57 million. Now, 5 years later, we're at close to 90 plus.
So time is not your friend.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you
And
an
that was-
idea, oh, I'm sorry.
That was a tough 5 years too,
Right,
for inflation, the numbers were, it was the most rapid escalation I ever saw.
It's about 40% between 2019 and today.
And
It's
the
about
plans are
40%.
exactly the same, it's
Yep.
just.
Yeah, just to give you an idea for comparison, a neighbor of yours, we started working on the Thompson, the Kainisha Lake wastewater treatment plant upgrade about the same time as we did with Fallsburg. The town just a month or two ago closed on financing. The original project estimate when we started was 27 million. It is now 34 million. And again, that is just based on inflation, and escalation. So again, the longer you wait, unfortunately, the more the project is gonna cost.
So you just get the same pipe, the same tank, the same piece of equipment, you're just paying more for it. So I think those two factors, we're pretty confident Bill will not be reauthorized. This is its last year, you are on the bubble, you are better positioned to do it now than you ever will be. And as Helen said, they put out new draft criteria that appear to work in your favor, to get you more points. It's not, we recognize this is an enormous amount of money. So as Helen said, she spent a long time trying to figure out how you get as much grant funding as you possibly can. Maybe the new Congress will surprise us and there'll be new money, but Helen was talking about sort of bill bipartisan infrastructure is federal dollars that come to the states. SRF is a federal program that comes to the states. WIA is a state. PIP is a state program. So it's kind of a blend of different funding sources that, to Councilman's point, you can add together. You're not allowed to sort of double dip on federal, but other than that, you can use state sources, federal sources, as long as you're not using one federal source to back another federal source.
And part of the map plan and report that we'll prepare and part of the public hearing process is to estimate rate impacts, so what will happen to this typical single-family home, how much will their bill, theoretically, increase, based on the financing package that you have now. So right now you have 25 million in hardship, 0% financing, 25 million in what's called subsidized financing, so that's like 2.5%. And then the balance would be market rate. And just some preliminary calculations that we did show that just with your existing financing package, no grants, the estimated increase for a single-family home is about $440 a year. So it's a lot for anybody who's struggling, but in the big scheme of things, we've seen a lot higher increases. If you were able to maximize your grants with the 3 sources that I talked about, that goes down to about $120 a year. So, again, you can't.
and capacity wise, I know we obviously have an issue that we're not processing our waste up to the new standards that they require, but capacity-wise, we're looking at an increase from, what, roughly like 3.5 million,
It's 3.3 million gallons a day now,
Right.
and this plant would increase to 4.5 million.
okay.
But what it's also done is inherent to the design is the ability to expand into 6.
Right, right.
So it's
So we're
just
putting in
adding
the
more
infrastructure
units, yes.
to make additional capacity in the future.
So that next jump would be a lot less than.
So the 4.5, we estimate is gonna, with the construction that's on the table now, it's gonna buy us about 10 years, is that fair?
I mean, we were showing, and this was done 4 years ago, we were showing that would get us probably 20 years.
Okay.
You know, so you're, right now, during.
With the 4.5 or the 6?
With the 4.5. But that was,
And that was based on information that Ken studied with it.
So it's based on a factor of sort of what the census data says the growth rate is, plus, you know, sort of the docket of the projects that are before the planning board, you know, that we know.
But for the public, just to reiterate, because we've discussed this in the past, but if we don't have the option of doing nothing.
Correct.
Because even without adding capacity, right now, we're under violation for how we're processing our waste.
Right, and eventually the EPA is gonna get to a point where they're like, okay, folks, you
Yeah.
haven't made progress, we're gonna start fining you, and that's not, you know,
Right.
that's
And
not.
remember,
gonna
fines they just take your money. You get nothing from that.
Right,
They take your money.
I believe we had Brock do, like a behind the envelope calculation. You know, in order for the current plants to meet the current standards that we have to have today, it'll cost about $55 million. If we want to increase the capacity with the old technology, which the DC will not let us do, you know, it's about $70 million. To increase, I'm sorry, to bring up to the current effluent limits, it'll be around $70 million. To increase from 3.25 million gallons per day to 4.5, you know, that's the difference between 70 million and $90 million.
So you'd have to spend $70 million anyway just to meet, you know, the current standards.
Right, yeah, because the speed, once the speedies permit comes up for renewal every 5 years, the DC already told us that they're gonna make us go to the higher standards. That's where the $70 million price tag comes. So for an extra 20+ million, we're getting actually a capacity increase from 3.25 million to 4.5 million as well.
We'll also say that the regulatory agencies do not want you to design your plants on a razor's edge. Like if they're aware that this is a growing community. I'm not convinced that they would approve you to stay at your existing speedy slope. Unless you're gonna put like extreme growth controls on, which would be more than we've ever seen any community do in New York State, right? Like really, really drastic. Because their job is to protect the environment.
But
And they wanna make sure that you're
also for the
accommodated.
public's information, it's not that our plant is not working as well as it should or has in the past, but certain limits, like with ammonia specifically, we were allowed like so many parts per million in the past. They've decreased what we're allowed to put into the water system drastically, which the technology we have right now just cannot accomplish.
That's right.
correct, so they've added, right now, we're not required to remove phosphorus at all. The plant you have now, nor is it required to actually remove the nitrogen. The new facility is required to do both.
And you're not alone, all your neighbors are being required to do the exact same thing. This is a watershed-based analysis that they do to protect the environment.
And the community I mentioned before, the village of Sherburne, they're in the Susquehanna watershed, so they have a lot of the same stringent requirements, and they were in the same boat, that's why they had to upgrade their wastewater treatment plants. So, I don't know if there's any other questions, I know there were some technical things that we were gonna go over later in the meeting, but other than that, that's sort of the grants and financing. I'll follow up with you guys, hopefully we can get the ball rolling and make it happen. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, inventory control management and credit card acceptance at Parks Department. Arnold, you want to come up for this discussion? And Councilman Walcarty, you want to take the lead on this?
So, going to the games and stuff like that over at the park, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the possibility of adding in mobile credit and also inventory management. I know the issue has been there's no internet at the park. And so the thought is a lot of the mobile devices now use cell phones, and do we get a booster or a cell phone booster that will boost the signal throughout the park? I know at one point somebody had talked about doing like satellite internet and stuff like that, and that's just a lot, but just wanted to hear like what your thoughts would be on a potential inventory management system that was based through cell phone service with a booster, and the addition of a credit card capture machine on mobile. I know you have one at the main office, but could that help, you know, in terms of what's going into the park?
Are you talking just at the ball field? I can address the ball field easy. Credit card, it works with cash, credit card. You know, let's say we had 7 games this year. High school didn't have that many, we had 3 doubleheaders. The problem is, if we had it, it's such a short window of business. You know, you go, it's like you're online, the game's being played, or halftime is 15 minutes, 12 minutes. Everybody wants to come, speed is, and we're not talking about a lot of money to upgrade.
What kind of sales do we do in the concession area?
So let's say, I don't have the exact figures, let's say for the 5 games,
Right.
3,500. Yeah, it's not a lot of money.
So it's-
The convenience to the customer.
So it's like
is,
$700 a
yeah,
game.
we're not gaining anything. If we had credit card, it's another minute,
Each
you
person.
know, we're not talking about a lot of money. What we're going to do this year, and especially when it comes to fees, it's just like everybody else is doing, 3-4%. You want to use your credit card. We just upgraded our registers to be able to accommodate that. So, you know, I'll be working with Scott, and we'll bring to the board exactly what that charge would be. But I could see that bringing us potentially another $10,000 in revenue. Now we're spending it, so it's really double that. So now that we have these registers, we just got them in September, so we'll be looking at that. The whole thing with if it was worth it, you know, I don't see for the amount of money. It'd be like in Mountaindale, it'd be the same thing. We gross, and that's with the pool, maybe $6,000 to $8,000.
The season.
A season. When I came in and we analyzed exactly what we had at the time, someone was there every day. So the first thing we did the next year was we only operate that concession 2 months for the swim season. All payment comes to Morningside for both parks now, yeah. So that was increased savings just in labor alone of not, you know, having to be there every day. You know. So
I just wonder if you're, like when I was at the game, you know, you have a visiting team coming in, right? And most people who are not in this area, they're not thinking bring cash. And so you have that capture that you could be missing in terms of sales. So when I'm looking at it, you have a packed stadium, you have, you know, I mean, people wall to wall. So I'm thinking, okay, could we be losing potential sales here in Fallsburg? But not based on us, but based on the visiting team and those visiting parents that are coming in. And more often than not, most people don't carry cash. Most people have a card. So it was, you know, and I definitely see what you're talking about in terms of the seasonals, and this is what we typically do. But my thought would be, when you have that other team coming in, you more than likely will increase.
Yeah, I don't see that. Most of these teams are repeat teams. It's not like we're playing someone we don't play. So they look forward. Any of these youth football, even high school, they love coming here because they know you go to a typical game, either a group in the school does it, or they're getting a hamburger and a hot dog if they're lucky. Here they know they're gonna get fries and
It's good.
chicken tenders, so,
What would the
yeah.
cost be to add
yeah,
a credit card machine?
if I thought it would enhance,
Right.
I'd be all for it.
Right.
I don't see, it's the board decision.
Right,
I
I'm just curious
see
what
it-
the cost would be
yeah,
to do it.
I would see getting internet, because if we could get the register without a charge, since this is really, it's 7 games, it's 7 days
Right.
of business, I'm not sure what our deal with the register. Now we pay a nominal fee for the registers we have.
Right.
So I'm not even sure
We could-
what that cost would be, but, I would go start with, because they're all internet-based, the registers. But that, also, different kind of register, it's time. It's,
Right.
I go, as business, I've been catering my whole life, and doing types of events, speed in a short time, that's a window. But,
The ball field is at Morningside Park, right?
yes.
Morningside has internet service, right?
Yeah,
But
not
at the
over,
ball
not
field.
over at the,
Can you get like a Wi-Fi extender, a mesh system? that would
no,
go
if
out
you were
there?
gonna do anything, it would be Starlink, and,
You can't get it a couple
no,
hundred feet down?
those systems would cost you probably
Probably
three,
like,
4,000 to them.
probably 1,500 feet.
For a mesh system?
I've tried every
Wait,
With like
system,
with 10 add-ons or?
I've tried every
We
information.
should reach out to Spectrum, because they have the the public access thing, they may be able to do something.
We wanted
Because
33,000 last time I priced it, about 5 years ago, to go from the road,
That's to put in a hard line.
from the Brooklyn Road, Selden Road, whatever you wanna call it, just down to the ball field, was 30-something thousand, and that was 5 years ago. To put internet in the park was hundreds of thousands of dollars. But most people in the park get HughesNet, they get their own satellite systems, or they just use their phone as a hotspot.
in the, and I think it might be coming up, there's a public access contract that we sign with Spectrum every year. We're supposed to sign it every year. In it spells out different things that Spectrum gives the town, and for payments and stuff like that. I know they're supposed to give stuff to the schools, and they're supposed to give stuff to I remember seeing it. Let me get back to you, because I remember that there is a contract that we have to sign every year, and it does spell it.
Which we do, but,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember seeing something about public service.
Yeah, I'm not against it, I just kind of gave you the negatives of that. But, whatever you decide is okay. I'm just not sure about the register component, what our cost would be. Well, let's say you did Starlink. Starlink, without them offering a deal, was like $5.99 for the equipment. They're up to $165 a month. You can't turn it on and off. So getting internet, so again, we're gonna invest
I think we did for a few months.
We're gonna invest
$1,000.
$1,000 to bring in 3,500.
Right.
It's, what we do is, we do earn a few dollars, but it's a big convenience.
It's right.
To our.
It's adding
Right,
services.
enhances the service that we do.
But you would go with Starlink over anything else?
It would be easy. I don't see Spectrum, I could almost guarantee, they're not doing anything they don't have to do. But I did price it. I priced both campgrounds, and they wanted to put in, I don't think they call them tweeters, different.
Repeaters?
Yeah, repeaters, all over. That was close.
Yeah. I picked up what he put down.
Should be influenced.
Sorry, I got the giggles tonight. That was good though.
Yeah, hit the time. Yeah. Not against enhancing the operation.
I mean, if it helps, if you don't think
Yeah.
it'll help, you know, and then
It's just the revenue and the return
Right.
is not there.
and then inventory control, is that part of the register system now, or no?
So this register, the upgrade, and they do charge, and I'm not sure what it is. It's only as good as what you put into it. So let's say, now I work on a PAR system. So let's say I got 4 boxes of tenders in. So you physically have to go into the register, figure out how many portions you're getting from those 4 cases, and put it in your register. You'd be doing that for every item. It's very time consuming. We have a pretty good handle on it. I don't swear for anybody but myself. But I could walk through at any given time and know if something's missing from a cup on the counter. And as many times I'll say, oh, you sold a cup, you know, because we have X amount there. It's just, you see, you know, so I think we have a good grip on that part. As far as equipment wise, yeah, we do have an inventory list that we keep of our major items. Sort of looks like, everything from copies, but, you know, from the weed eaters down to the blowers, nail guns, our major items that we use, we have an inventory with.
That's all I got.
But always good to discuss further. I like the subject.
But really, we're trying to just
Yeah.
looking at enhancing what you have and what can be done to support it. Like,
No, I like carrying on the conversation.
okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? Any questions?
Thank you.
I'm ready to cook again.
Arnold might
Yes,
want
we
to
do
stick
have the
around for the
holiday
next
party.
one.
Oh, yeah,
We
mention
do-
that.
We do need servers.
Yeah, well, you,
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
alright, so moving on to the
Yeah,
last
we need to
discussion
have
item
one.
for the night would be a
Skate park.
continuation of the skate park discussion. Mr. Williams made a presentation here a number of weeks ago, and, like to maybe further the discussion a little bit more. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there are possible grants to help build this park, but there was concerns regarding the insurance, because there could be a high probability of folks getting hurt. So what would the insurance look like for such an endeavor? Anyone want to add to this conversation?
No, that's the only, because when we were on the board together years ago, I think the skate park back then was like a $60,000.
60, 80.
60 or 80, and the town was completely willing to do it, but when we approached our insurance carrier, it made it, made it a non-starter. It was extreme what they were willing.
And at that time, the surface was a rubber surface.
Right.
With a couple of jumps.
With the cement jumps, right?
But you were actually gonna land on something, so, that would have softened the ball a little, but still high. I happened to be here for the presentation. Location, of course, I'm the park guy. I'd love to see at the park. My reasoning would be more centrally located, to isolate them in a hamlet. You're really serving that hamlet.
The proposal was to put it behind the building department, right?
Not visible. That's just my opinion.
But I think we should.
Yeah, this is.
We should have done it last time, I honestly forgot. We should reach out to our insurance carrier and say,
We did.
hey. Oh, we did?
Yeah, I sent you guys all an email.
Oh, I
We're
didn't
good.
see it.
Yeah.
What did it say?
It's a nominal cost. Scott, reached out to him, and got that information. I'll see you guys again. It was like nothing,
Oh.
and I was shocked. But that was weeks ago. So I think we're good when it comes, it was more about just making sure you engineered it right and had the right markings, and you would be good to go.
What was the date of the email?
Let me find it.
Now, so,
Yeah.
It's a scary endeavor,
it
as you
is,
can
yeah.
see from other,
So a couple things to
other
consider,
towns.
a couple things to consider with the insurance is that the cost of having the policy right now as it stands versus when a claim is made and the potential for the premiums to go up, so what would that look like? And then also our deductible for the payout of any settlements, you know, how much is that gonna look like? You know, if it's a $100 deductible, then it's easier to stomach than a $100,000 deductible for a claim. That's gonna be above and beyond the initial cost of the premiums, so that is something to consider as well.
Yeah, I would think the supervisor's probably right on that, from the park point of view.
That's weird. Yeah.
No, I remember reading this here.
Okay, yeah.
It wasn't- The
My
initial
point of
cost,
view, there was no.
Let's
we have an umbrella policy that can technically cover this already,
Right.
if it's a sanctioned project, but.
I mean, let's say.
So my one other concern, and I'm all about doing more for the kids in the community, and as a matter of fact, my oldest daughter did skated on a skateboard until she broke her leg doing it. But how many kids, like there's so much of a need for different things for kids to do, soccer fields, basketball courts. How many kids in the town really skate out of the makeup of our community? And again, out of my 3 kids, one of them did, but
Yeah.
is there a real need in the community?
So, I remember Mr. Williams had a petition of those interested,
Yeah.
but I would also, my thought when hearing about the petition was, how many of those that signed up for it are actual Fallsburg youth that are interested? You know, we don't wanna build a park and nobody comes, or just a few people show up.
Or people come from out of the community, which is also nice, and we have the liability of somebody getting hurt when we could put in something that really more of our community could use. But I'm not against it at all.
So if we could, you know.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. Mr. Williams, thank you.
That's my contact from the skate park project.
Come on up.
We have the original presenter here tonight.
Very enthusiastic too.
Yeah, with the contact I have with the skate park project, he was telling me that the liability falls within whoever designs the skate park, not necessarily the town itself, so. Like,
Well, the way it works, and our attorney could probably answer,
Yeah,
when somebody gets hurt,
everybody
everybody gets
gets
hurt. The guy that made the wheels on the skateboard, the guy that designed the park, the town,
Is that
right?
the
The
same
guy who
thing?
wants to sell it to you is.
So is that the same like thing with like if someone would break their leg at the basketball court or something?
Yeah. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
pretty much, because
Yeah.
like when you sue,
You sue
you do sue
everybody.
everybody.
Yeah,
But,
so that-
Oh, less of a
So
chance.
that, yeah,
Right.
so I don't really see why that should dampen our chances of having a skate park.
Well, just different activities are looked at by insurance companies at a higher risk, so
Yeah,
like
so-
playing basketball or
And
soccer.
On the statistics, basketball is not as high as like say basketball. There's not as many like
Right.
injuries, like it's like mainly head injuries, but like there's not as many injuries as with basketball or soccer or football or rugby, say, is like,
Right.
so.
Well, do
How many-
you wear a helmet when you skate?
Of course.
Yeah.
yeah.
Do
The
most,
It's required
really, most kids wear helmets?
when you go into a skate park, isn't it? No smoking, no drinking at the basketball court, so that's the same thing with park, like skate park.
Right.
If
And
it's
if
monitored.
you're a little kid.
But I'm saying, I'm not,
I'm saying.
in
people you
general,
would see are
most
like-
kids skating today wear helmets?
Yeah.
Do you see a big need for our local kids wanting this?
Yeah, and it's not just skaters, not everybody skateboards, there's rollerbladers
Right.
or roller skaters, scooter kids or bikes or, there's a bunch of like different people, like I know people from Middletown that have inline skates and they grind the ledges and
Right.
rails and everything, so it's like, and there's roller skaters that do that, I post that, like, different like sports and like different
Do they-
activities people do.
Do they have in Orange County?
They have one in Middletown.
Yeah.
Is there a surface or is?
Yeah, it's concrete,
Or is there rubber?
Spawn Ranch is the company
And
that
they
did
also
the
have their-
design.
Yeah.
I would have to contact them to see like what their policy would be to like what they do.
We probably could.
But
do
the
a
ones you've been
survey,
right? Just
Yeah,
concrete.
we could do that.
If it was, I heard of like rubbery, like you was think that wouldn't even, like, if I was landing on it, bouncing off. Like if it was rubber, like that would only work like a basketball court. But like you know, like Sullivan's basketball court,
Yeah.
how it has a rubber floor, that works for that. But like skateboarding,
It has to be cement or blacktop.
Because, yeah,
or like the asphalt, you know, like
we're gonna get
like when you
schooled.
put the asphalt over like a broken road or
Right.
that works too.
So I have a thought, and my thought would be, you know, to see initial interest in it, and I don't know if that's through a survey process or whatever that looks like.
I
But
have a
what,
survey too, but it don't really do that good, but like probably you guys probably have like better chance of like doing it than I would.
we might,
Survey monkey?
something like that, like a Survey Monkey or something like that, right? And then, but also at the same time, reach out to Liberty, reach out to, Orange County, neighboring towns, you know, and certainly getting, direction, from Arnold with that. Just to say, okay, what is, you know, you built it, what was the cost, what's the usage?
I have a very good relationship with the mayor of Middletown, the city of Middletown. I know they have a skate park where a lot of kids travel to go and get.
Maybe I'll
Okay,
go
that
with
works.
the meet and do a little fact finding.
Yeah, and I think that works out, and then at the same time, you know, we can do a Survey Monkey and put something like in the paper, I would say partner with the school, but, you know.
You know when you tell someone to vote for something. You'll have 900 yeses.
I know.
In Japan, they actually have like classes that you can teach the skateboard too, so that's like a growing thing over there too, so.
But I mean, I think those are three good places to start, like the interest and what has been the feedback.
I know that when I was in high school, they started like introducing rollerblading and stuff, so I know that kids were learning how to roll and use bike too, like, they were doing that like around the gym at the time when I was there. So.
Nate, if you take Middletown, I'll take Liberty.
Yeah, I'll find out.
Okay. I'll work upon Liberty.
One concern did come to mind with regards to maintenance and liability, that even if, let's say, we can get Tony Hawk's organization to pay for the entire cost of installing it, and it is cement, so, you know, as it goes through winters, you know, there's a possibility of moisture getting in there, causing cracks in the cement. You know, so now there'd be a potential liability to the town if the town didn't spend the funds to ensure that, you know, it was maintained and fixed on a timely basis.
I know most skate parks in California, they do like the asphalt method and like up there in Seattle and stuff, because I know they have like a Wallace, what's called Wallace Street, they shut down like a whole street so they could like cleared it, put asphalt down and put like obstacles in there so people could come, just walk through.
Movable stuff, like they'll put in ramps and stuff that you just take
Little
off.
curbs and stuff like that, just like, or people could bring their own stuff, or it's like an open, like, it's like a big road, so it's like.
I wonder if there's a way that we could do something, that would be like multi-use, so we put the different things out there, and when we're not using that, we could do something else.
I know there is certain, like Love Park in Philadelphia, they started doing stuff like that, like bringing in like stuff that they could like skate and also like move around, and like they brought something, like a marble like statue like they brought from somewhere else, but like that's there for like the site, but like they could bring stuff or take stuff to go to like fit the like aesthetic of like whatever they needed.
Maybe like it could be a basketball court when it's not a, you know, something like that.
Yeah, it could be anything, like a soccer, like a little street soccer field or.
Yeah.
And then we just have to figure out, so thank you.
Thank you, guys.
And then we just have to figure out the survey, what that looks like, you just grab any like,
You can find a lot of survey monkeys.
Yeah, and probably one thought skate for community.
If we can create a question in there to identify Fallsburg residents, maybe, you know, what area they live, what area they wanna see it built, that kind of thing. I wanna make sure we have Fallsburg resident interests, you know, leading this endeavor.
So what I'll work on, is creating a survey and send it to you guys, so this way you guys
Can we just put it down? Sorry, we're still in a meeting here.
I'll work on the survey and send it to everyone, including Arnold, this is why if there's different questions that we wanna put in here. I think SurveyMonkey, if we're not paying, it has to be like 10 questions, or more than 10, right? And then go from there, and then I'll reach out to Liberty, and we'll see.
Alright, sounds
All
good.
right, all right.
Alright, so with that, I believe Delaware Engineering wants to speak to us regarding property acquisition and pending litigation. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session.
Motion. Second?
I have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We do not anticipate any further business after this executive session. Thank you everyone for coming tonight, and with that, we are adjourned.
Nice meeting you.
See you.
We're trying. Takes forever, and this project's so much of our partners. So yeah, it's hard and